Hey guys, John from FlyMikeAlpha.com, and today I'm here to talk to you guys about buying your own airplane, and in this particular case, buying an Aeronca Champ or an L-16A or any of those old fabric-covered airplanes, 65 horse, 85 horsepower engines, and what it costs to own one, and some ideas that you might be able to do with it, like starting a flying club at the airport, and really looking at some of the most affordable flying there is out there to do, and some of the coolest, being that it's an old tail dragger airplane. Nothing really beats the low, slow flying of any of these old airplanes, so let's go ahead and check out what it actually costs if we want to go buy one of these things and fly it around for fun. Now, for those of you who don't know, an Aeronca Champ is a two-seat tandem aircraft, so one in front of the other, and it's an old tail dragger. Really easy to fly, super low stall speed, very low fuel burn, and very easy to maintain. It is a fabric airplane and preferably would be kept inside or at least out of the sun. And this particular one has the door taken off of it right now because if you're going to fly low and slow, it's even more fun having your arm hanging out the window and having no door on the airplane. Now, as far as insurance goes and things like that, it's fairly inexpensive. These are very safe airplanes. They are wood, fabric, and metal construction, so metal steel tube, generally a wooden spar with fabric over the wing. Some of them have a newer style aluminum spar in the wing. And it will cruise, about 80, 90 miles an hour, not a whole lot of fuel. A lot of them are hand prop. This particular one is, and that's the one we're going to be exploring today. No electrical system and very, very little maintenance costs. So taking a look here at our Excel spreadsheet, we've got our variable costs up here, and what we found after running the Champ for a couple hundred hours is about a 3.8 gallon per hour average fuel burn out of it. So really not a whole lot of gas. Our oil burn, about 10 hours per quart of oil, seemed pretty realistic. And the engine deposit we figured out to be about $7 an hour. Now, again, we're doing everything here based off of Hobbs hours, not TAC hours. So just a quick difference between the two. Hobbs hours is you start the engine, 60 minutes later, it's been 1 hour. That's the log. That's the time you put in your logbook. That's what you log as a pilot, is the Hobbs time. TAC time comes off the tachometer, and it's really a function of RPM. So the harder the engine runs, the faster the clock ticks. So say like an hour at 2,500 RPM, well, that equates to 1 hour on the TAC. But a full hour at only 1,250 RPM, half of that equates to 0.5 hours on the TAC. So we're not talking about TAC time here. Even though most of our maintenance costs are based off of that, we're dealing strictly with Hobbs time. Everything's converted over to that. So that's what you're going to rent an airplane off of as well from an FBO, and that's how you're going to log the time. So anyways, all these figures here are based off Hobbs time. Coming down here, obviously we burn up tires and tubes, depending on your skill level, some more than others, especially in tailwheel airplanes. Those main tires can get burned up pretty fast, but if you land on grass or you just make the airplane go straight, then they can last a long time. So that's kind of a conservative number. Probably won't spend $100 every 100 hours on tires, but figure worst case scenario you will. Brakes? Well, on a Champ or a Taylorcraft or a J3 Cub, man, you're landing at like 30 miles an hour. Stall speed's about 38. Touchdown with any sort of headwind, you're going to be about 30 miles an hour. And you're going to decelerate fairly quickly just at that angle with the tail on the ground and the wing at a high angle of attack. And just with aerodynamic braking, you really don't need to use brakes at all. They could last forever. But we threw in $6 every 100 hours just to be safe. They're cheap. Brake pads, are only a few dollars a piece. So just figuring that you can change them yourself or with the help of a mechanic. Oil change, that's something that stays up there. We had a spin-on oil filter on our Champ, which was pretty cool. It's cheaper not to, but it's just healthier for the engine, in my opinion, to have one of those spin-on oil filters on there. So every 100 hours, figuring you're changing every 50 hours, that's about $130 in oil and filters. Your battery, well, there is no battery. It's hand prop. There's no electrical system. It is very lightweight, and it's very low maintenance for that reason. And it's totally safe to hand prop an airplane. Anyone who says it's not may not be familiar with the proper technique, or may not be using the right technique, or probably just isn't too educated on the subject, because there are safe ways to hand prop an airplane. It was how we started airplanes for better part of 50 years. So it can be done very safely. Anyways, batteries are on here because the intercom, you're probably going to want to talk to your passenger and probably want to have your headset plugged into a handheld radio so you can transmit on CTAF or even go into a Class Delta airport. So we factored in $10 every 100 hours for like 9-volt batteries or AA batteries or whatever. Your mags, $150 every 100 hours. They do wear out and they do have to be replaced. Lights, don't have them. Doesn't cost anything. Spark plugs, $40 every 100 hours, fairly conservative. Being a hand prop airplane, you'd like to keep your spark plugs new so you can easily start it. Nothing more frustrating than spinning a prop 100 times, trying to make an engine start. You should really only have to spin the prop once or twice to make it start. So keeping fresh spark plugs in there will help with that. Starter, you're free, so it doesn't cost anything. Alternator, free. And radios, well, maybe your handheld is going to wear out after a while, so we factor in $5 just so you can save up and buy a new handheld every so many hours. That comes out to about $441 every 100 hours, and maintenance cost, fixed cost, well, this is where things get kind of arbitrary. So, annual $175. It's a really simple airplane. You can pull all the panels yourself. You can pull the floor and the seats yourself. It'll take you probably an hour or two to strip the entire airplane. It's going to take the mechanic about 2 to 3 hours to peek through everything, do compression tests. So he's probably only going to charge you $175. At least that's what we paid for our annual. And the mechanic was only there for about 3 hours or so. There's nothing, unless there's anything wrong with the airplane. If it's just a pure inspection, it goes by really quickly. Very easy airplane to inspect and see everything in. The tie down / hanger. Well, let's just say we're tying it down $55 a month, and we're going to come back to this because we're probably going to want a hanger or a fabric airplane. Let's say we have a tie down or something, just for starters. Insurance, $40 a month, and fabric, we factor in at $400 a year. Figure the fabric's going to last 30 years-ish. Sometimes it'll last less, sometimes more. I know some people will say they get 50 years out of their fabric. I'd like to replace it at least every 30 years if you're keeping it in the hangar, keeping it out of the sun. And we figure about 12 to 15 grand to recover the airplane. So about $400 a year is a safe estimate. A good Champ, actually some of these airplanes are not as cheap as like 150s. About 24 grand is what you can plan to spend on a good Champ, especially like an 85 horsepower one. They're a little bit more sought after because they got a little bit more power, and that extra 20 horsepower over the 65s does make a difference, especially if you like to drink beer like myself. It will carry a lot more weight with that extra 20 horsepower. The cost of money, we'll figure 3% a year, so about $720. And your fuel cost per gallon, this is kind of an arbitrary number too. Let's just put everything on the low side right now. These particular engines don't like a lot of lead. So if you're mixing 90-octane ethanol-free rec gas with your 100 low lead, 25% to 75%, 25 100 low lead and 75% ethanol-free 90-octane, then you're going to come out to about $3 a gallon. And the engine's actually a little bit happier like that, and it tends to start easier because you don't get lead fouling on your plugs. The oil cost per quart, about $5.50 a quart, we figure. And our maintenance rates, we figure about $45 to $55 an hour. That's what these figures are based on over here in the annual as well. So we're going to look at this a couple different ways. If you're in a club, if you're not in a club, whatever. Let's just look at just owning it ourselves, right? Let's say we fly it 95 hours a year. That'd be cool if we got to fly that much. Well, with all this factored in, the cost of money, everything, eventually comes out to about $23.36 variable cost per hour, and a total cost at 95 hours a year of $49 an hour. This is a really economical airplane to own. If you just want to go fly for a half hour on Sunday, it costs you like $12. Can't really beat that, right? Like, that's awesome. So, and if you want to drive somewhere and maybe your company's giving you 55 cents a mile to drive it, well, you can fly for 27 cents a mile cheaper and then just Uber when you get to the airport down there to wherever you need to go. This is an awesome airplane to own. Now, mind you, it's not IFR, you're not flying it at night, you're not, flying in bad weather, all that, but it's a great, awesome flying machine. May not be, the world's best transportation machine, but it's an awesome flying machine. Let's look at this a little bit more worst case scenario, and we're going to look at the club aspect too, because this is an awesome airplane to throw into a club, especially if you're going to have a hangar. I'm going to throw a fridge in there, some beer, some chairs, couch, hang out, and let's say it's going to cost $300 a month for the hangar. So now we got a hangout place, we got a safe place to put the airplane. You can see our cost jumped up quite a bit there, just because it really drives up our total annual fixed cost having that hangar. but it really is a good thing to have, keep the fabric fresh on the airplane and make sure it has a long life. Let's look at if we had like 4 guys in a club. So we'll throw 4 guys in there. We're figuring $40 per month per guy, and then all this other stuff we can pretty much split between ourselves. And let's say we each fly 5 hours a month. That's, pretty reasonable. I mean, I'd like to fly more than that, but, life gets in the way. So 5 hours a month. And what do things really work out to? Well, it comes out that you're going to have to pay about $142 a month to belong to the club. That's going to cover all your insurance, your hangar, all your fixed costs in this airplane, $142. Then it's going to cost you $23.36 when you go fly it. Say fuel goes up to like $4 a gallon. Maybe you just use regular 100 low lead. We're paying about $4 a gallon here right now. That's going to make your variable cost $27 an hour. So literally, you belong to the club, $142 a month. You pay $27, $29, whatever, to go fly the airplane. You can't rent an airplane for $29 an hour anywhere. If you want to figure out what it costs you totally, if you're flying 5 hours a month, and so about 60 hours a year and you belong to that club, works out about $55 an hour total cost to be in the club. I like the idea of keeping club memberships under $100 a month. So if we have 7 guys in there, that brings our membership down to $98 a month. If you're flying 5 hours a month, costs you $46 an hour total cost to fly. That's including the membership. Or if you look at just paying a $98 membership, then it's just going to cost you $27, $29, whatever you want to charge yourselves to go fly the airplane. So this is probably the best airplane you can fly in a club. As far as just cheap, up and down the coast, go fly for fun, the barnstorming kind of days, go flower bomb, go cruise around for an hour or two, even go out, fly somewhere on a cross country and get lunch. Probably not across the country, but a solid 50-mile cross country is pretty doable in these airplanes. Like we said earlier, about 80 to 90 miles an hour. 90's kind of pushing it. 80's fairly comfortable. You're typically flying with the window open. I like to fly with the window open and the door off. That's an STC on these airplanes. Some of them you can do it just as they are. Some of them you need the STC. So that's what we're really looking at here as far as our cost to fly this airplane. As you can see, this is a super fun airplane to have, one of my favorites. It's an Aeronca Champ, or this one in particular, an L16A. But the Taylorcrafts, the Aeronca Chiefs, all the J3s, all those airplanes from that era are super cool and definitely worth a shot. If you're concerned about hand propping, leave something in the comments below. We can talk about it. It's really not a big deal in my opinion. It just has to be done safely, and you have to be careful when you're doing it. But you have to be careful when you fly too. Flying's not the safest thing in the world to begin with. So, in any case, hopefully you guys found that informative. I would seriously encourage you guys to go check out these airplanes. Most of them do qualify for the light sport category. So if you're trying to do it without a medical, even though we do have that new medical reform, if you flat out just don't want one, then these do qualify for light sport for the most part. They're all under 1,300 pounds. So if you have any questions at all about this or any comments about owning one of these airplanes yourselves, leave it in the comments below. Really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you check out our Patreon page. Support us if you can. We greatly appreciate it. Give us a like, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel to keep up with all the latest videos. Once again, thanks for watching. And if you can't fly every day, then fly at MikeAlpha.com. We'll see y'all next time.